ShoPowSho in the house. I am Kuya P, and I got the amazing Ates in the house. Cataphor, Viva Valentina, how y'all doing?
Awesome. Doing great. Ready for tonight. So excited.
Yes, we got another one for y'all. We're bringing it to the acting stage now. We gave you comedy, we gave you activism, and now we gave you us, so y'all know about us. But now we're bringing it to a dope actor, Xavi de Guzman, Xavier de Guzman. He was a Muay Thai fighter who then got into the acting game and then also got into the charity game. He has a great foundation that we'll talk about. But before we give you some clips and throw it to the interview, I just want to say, if I was the other way or whatever, that chromosome, when I first saw this man picture, it kind of was like, I was like, yo, he's a good looking brother. Ladies, did y'all feel the same way?
Like a Filipino Aquaman.
Is he?
I don't like to objectify, but also.
I know, right? That hair is glorious. Like, we got to find out what products he uses.
Yeah, mad respect.
And all of that.
All about the long hair, so.
Yes. So let's not take too long. Let's throw it right to it. An amazing interview with Mr. Xavi de Guzman. But before we get into it, check out some of these clips. He was on CW's The 100. He is going to be appearing on Netflix's Operation Christmas Drop. Beautiful man, beautiful work. Let's get right into it. Here we go.
Can I help you? Who's that? Oh, cool, the Jets. Right.
Who are you, and what have you done with Burrow?
Try me. I might surprise you. I got this. I am a confident and together dude.
Hey, confident and together dude. Want to grab a coffee? Get to know each other better? Cool, let's go.
Sir, your lapel pin.
You're kidding, right?
It's a very sensitive machine.
Okay.
Thank you. Easy like Sunday morning.
Just a little tip.
Thanks. Want it?
No, you can keep it.
Thanks. You better give me money for all the shit you just ruined.
How old are you?
He's old enough to fuck you up.
I don't think you really met my boyfriend, Josh.
Oh, hey, so nice to meet you. I didn't see you come in.
We've heard so much about you.
Oh, cool.
Shrimp?
You're going to throw your hip out if you keep trying to run away like that.
Chasing after me is the only exercise any of you get around here.
Is that why you told me to eat shit?
I never said that.
Pretty sure you did.
We're here for you, Margot. You're not alone. You're not the only one who's lost someone. Well, we made it.
We made it, Dot.
Don't worry, remember? Everything's gonna be all right. There.
Here we go. Feedback.
Man. We did it.
Pretty obvious.
Things are gonna get weird.
All right, check it out. We are back. Xavier de Guzman is in the house. Kuya P, amazing Ates. Please welcome Xavier de Guzman. What's up, brother?
How's it going? Good to be here.
Yes. Excited to have you on, man. Thank you for joining us. As I told you earlier, this program is about Filipino American history and culture and the movers and shakers within it. And you are one of those cats, man. When I was reading the breakdown, your bio of your story, man, from becoming a fighter, well, just even before that, growing up in Canada to then getting into fighting, Muay Thai fighter, you held the belt. Go ahead, brother, you a champion. And then you decided to get into the acting biz, man. So you went from hitting cats in the head for real life to then hitting cats in the head with the acting, man. We want to know that story because I think it's glorious and it's going to inspire a lot of people. So let's get into it. Yo, from the seed, let's talk about Tina, why don't you've coined the phrase with all these interviews. Where you from? Why don't you go ahead and say it, Tina?
Yeah. So we want to know, like, where are you from? Like, where are your parents from?
So my dad his side is from Manila, and then my mom's side is from a little area called West Vigan. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's I've been there a couple times, and no, there's just nothing like it. It's also pretty funny because it's like you get both sides of the coin, where we go back and then we go to my dad's side and it's pretty ritzy, and then when we go to my mom's side, it's like it's more earthy, and the community is so much more vibrant. It's just it's unexplainable.
I love it. So they moved from there to Toronto, which is where you were born.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I want to say when they first arrived, they came through San Diego, because that's where my Lolo and Lola was, and then they decided to migrate up to Canada after that.
Okay.
Don't know why. I'm pretty sure my life would have had a different trajectory if I stayed in San Diego, if I was born in San Diego. But no, it's just interesting how, hearing their story of just following my grandpa, my Lolo, for work.
Okay.
And, yeah.
So that's what brought them to America, is different opportunities, I would assume.
Yeah, this side of the world was the land of opportunity, right?
Definitely. So let's talk about growing up in Toronto. What was it like being in the so-called Great White North and being a Filipino, a young brown kid, raised in the White North? When I think, it's a different sensibility. I grew up in Washington State, and in one of our previous episodes, a very white dominated area where I grew up in, and being the Asian kid there. I'm curious how it was in Canada for you.
It was interesting because especially in Toronto, because Toronto's on the east side. Right now I'm living on the west side, and there's such a contrast in terms of what it means to be ethnic. Here on the West Coast in Vancouver, it's very, I don't want to say cliquey, but there's a real divide when it comes to, are you ethnic or are you, North American, right? But then in Toronto, you still had your different communities and you had greater numbers. But the best part about it was very together. So you had a lot of other ethnic influences growing up.
So was there a lot of Filipinos in Toronto?
There was, but not in the area that I was in. Because there's so many different communities that revolve around food, especially, right?
Yeah.
So they were there. The community was there, but in the community that I grew up in the area that I grew up in, it was majority Black kids. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting growing up because it was hard for me to embrace what it meant to be Filipino. Mm. Not, because I'm still really good friends with those kids back in the day, but it's like back then you fell into the peer pressures of things. You fell into what TV said was cool. Mm-hmm. So it was really hard for me as a Filipino to identify with wanting to be Filipino.
Oh, we feel that. We're all mixed kids, so.
We're the mosquito mafia.
Yeah.
That's another just world in its own space, because you're literally divided. Mm-hmm. And it's like I've have close friends that are mixed, and it's just you hear both sides of the coin from them, and it's an interesting perspective.
So what was childhood like?
For joining us on our podcast.
True. So what was it like growing up in Toronto? Okay, so you grew up with predominantly African-American kids, and so what were some of the things you were into as a kid? And if you can recall, with like Filipino relatives, or it was really, I think you said your parents, and it was sparingly that you had Filipino connections, from what you just said, if I can recall. Any of those elements that to find your roots a little bit, because you grew up in Canada? Oh,
like there was a lot of effort, for sure. especially when it comes to the language.
Word.
I understand it completely,
That's great.
just because my parents always spoke it at home.
Okay.
And I want to say the first time I went back to the Philippines was in 1998. And leading up to that time, my mom tried her best to, help me with the language. So I'd be speaking Tagalog, or what I thought to be Tagalog, at home.
Yeah.
And then, but because I only used it at home, some of the times it didn't really stick.
Mm.
So that first time when I went back to the Philippines, I'm pretty sure it traumatized me, because my mom was like, "Oh yeah, go speak Tagalog with your cousins," and I was like, "Okay," and then I did it, and then my cousins are looking at me like, "What?" Yeah. We understand English better, right? And it's like, whatever. It hurt my feelings, you know what I mean? And it stuck with me. It resonated me for all those years. And it's just like, it deterred me from diving back into wanting to learn the language. I want to learn it more fluently for sure. But yeah, it was just an interesting time in my life, especially being 10 years old. Mm-hmm. You're so influenced by what people have to say about you. Yeah. So, but I understand it completely, which is, pretty impressive to some people's standards over here.
Absolutely, absolutely. More than the couple phrases that we know between the three of us.
Yeah. Growing up overseas, they didn't want me to get confused with my words, so they kind of stopped teaching me Tagalog, and I'm still kind of mad about that. Like, man, it was the best time.
Oh, that's funny.
So growing up, what were you into? How did fighting become a thing? Let's lead up to becoming a Muay Thai fighter, yo.
Ooh, fighting, everything that's kind of happened in my life has all been by accident.
Nice.
The way I got into fighting was I was a really terrible student. That's it. And it's just like, it was me in the back of, I remember it was in the back of my biology classroom, where the bad kids sat at the back, and yeah, my buddy was just like, "Hey, what are you doing after school? Let's go, come to my gym." And I was like, "What? I don't want to go to a gym. Screw that. Let's whatever. Let's just smoke or something." Yeah. And then, yeah, just because I'd rather do anything than homework, I was like, you know what, whatever, I'll come. And then that was my first time being in a gym, putting on some gloves and hitting things, and I was like, okay, cool, this is interesting. And especially back in the day, like with the whole gang culture and everything, it was it helped me, it definitely gave me more confidence being on the streets, and B, it kept me off the streets. Right. So it was something that I guess turned into a second home for me, because ultimately you didn't want to have to be out on the streets all the time. Right. So I had a lot of influences back then where it's just, it wasn't the most pleasant situation, because it was me having to do things to try to get by, to try to fit in, things I wasn't proud of. But those are things that definitely helped shape who I am today. And then if it wasn't for fighting, I'm pretty sure I would have went down a completely different road. So because I then found that safe haven of the place, I was like, all right, cool. I think I'll just stick to fighting and learning how to fight and just giving my attention to this. And then that ultimately led my homework to suffer even more. It's because that's all I wanted to do. Was right after school, I'd go straight to the gym, and then by the time, I'd stay at the gym until it closed. And then for my parents, it was like a double-edged sword, because it was like, all right, he's staying off the streets, but at the same time, he's not doing his homework. What do we do? So
yeah. As a former English teacher, your story is really bittersweet.
Oh my goodness, I have English class. That's a trauma of mine. We'll get into that after if we have more time. But so yeah, I started doing Muay Thai, and all of a sudden, because I was already athletic, they but they saw that I picked it up really fast, and I was showing a lot of signs of potential. And then eventually the owner of the gym was just like, "Hey, have you thought about fighting?" And I was like, no, I'm cool. That's all right. So, but with that, like, I at least got invited to train with some of the higher tier students. So yeah, just the ball kept rolling in that word. Eventually I just was the better person in the gym that I was at the time. And it was just like, well, if I'm better than everybody here, what does that mean? So yeah, I had to move on, and yeah, that's how one thing led to the next. And I became a fighter. And it's funny because so a lot of times when people get into Muay Thai, they're already doing their first fight by 6 months.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. It's like they just throw them in. But that's in North America. And then, but for me, I didn't have my first fight. I didn't really start showing interest until like 2 years into training. So my first couple of fights, I destroyed my opponent.
Oh no! Like first fight beginner, 2 years experience.
Exactly.
Like a shonen protagonist.
I gotta ask. So for all my friends that are fighters, because you learn through training, a lot of training before you have a match. How was it? And I'm sure you recall this. The first time really taking a punch to the face, or because you're Muay Thai, a knee to the head or to the groin or the body or whatever. How was taking that first hit? And then I want to know how was delivering your first connect where you was like, yeah, bitch, I got you. Excuse my language.
No, yeah. So like when it comes to taking a hit or giving a hit,
yeah,
it's my training partners. Nobody's hit me harder. But the thing that people will never realize until they get into their first official amateur or professional fight is the energy exertion. I thought I was in the best shape of my life going into my first fight, running 10, 15K a day, training, 10, 15 rounds. Yeah, like I was in the best peak physical shape of my life. And I remember at the end of my first fight, even though I kicked the guy's ass, I was winded. I couldn't do anything. And then it's like, that's why sometimes when you watch UFC or whatever, and sometimes if the fight ends quickly, you see them do push-ups or something to show that they still got energy. But nah, after my first fight, I was done. I was like, nope, I just need to sit down. I need water. This is crazy. So that's the separation of, being in a fight versus training. Because in training, especially back then, where I was one of the smallest guys in the gym. So that's also a tribute to why I became so good, is because I'm a lightweight, but my training partners are heavyweights and shit. And so it was like, and there would be drills, and I still remember it, where it's like, all right, all you're doing is defense. It's like, I'm just doing defense against a heavyweight. So even in my guard, they're just crashing through it, and I'm feeling everything. So when it comes to getting hit hard, it's just like nothing hit harder than my training partners.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dope. So let's talk about before acting came into the picture. So right before you got that piece in Rookie Blue, were you kind of like already feeling you were done fighting? Did you think you wanted to continue doing that? What stage were you in your life? Was it just, man, I don't want to get up this early to do this training session? Like, where were you at as a person?
Where was
I was at like a quarter life crisis, in a sense, where I went to Thailand to train and fight, and it was an eye-opener in terms of what does it mean to be a fighter. Because I'm in Thailand and I'm seeing, like, there was this one kid at the camp that I was training at, and everybody's like talking about this kid, and he's like, oh, he's coming out of retirement, you got to watch this fight. And it's like, oh, sick. How old is he? Like, oh, he's 16. I was like,
Whoa.
coming out of retirement and he's 16. Interesting. Okay, cool. And it's like, and then I'm also watching these 4-year-olds go at it for prize money equivalent to, like, I'd say $5,000. And it's an eye opener, because it's like you have these kids fighting each other. They don't know any better. They're kids. They're just doing what the adults are telling them to do. And these kids are the breadwinners for their family for whatever reason, because their mother can't work or their father can't work. And these 4-year-olds are supporting their families. So it just put everything into perspective. Me being from North America, even though I didn't feel like, you know, I was the wealthiest kid on the block, I certainly felt like I was more privileged than these kids.
Yeah.
So it was just a change in direction of, okay, I don't have to fight. These kids have to fight. I'm happy knowing how to fight. If I have to protect myself, great, but I don't have to fight. And so I got back, and it was just, everything changed, kind of, where I felt wiser in a sense, as a fighter as well, where it was just like bringing new knowledge to students that were at the gym. But then at the same time, where I found myself a lot more calmer. And then I reached a point of thinking, all right, well, I've spent the last 10 years of my life just focusing on Thai boxing. I didn't really focus on my post-secondary. I didn't really feel like I had life skills. And it's just a testament to how society kind of molds you and fashions you into thinking that you have to be an adult by the time you're 20. Because I didn't feel like I was an adult. I felt like I missed out on a chunk of my life because I put it towards something that now I don't know what to do with. And then the reality was, do I open a gym? Do I become a personal trainer? What are my other options as a fighter? And so that's the thought that was just lingering in my head about things to do and how I can, if not translate my fighting into something else, what other options in life do I have? Do I go back to school? Do I go back to school as knowing that I'm going to be older than all of my other classmates, which was also another daunting, egotistical thing that was like, no, I can't do that. That's too embarrassing. I don't want these younger kids to be getting better grades than me.
I feel
right.
that.
So there's just so many pressures. And then all of a sudden, after all those years, I was able to garner the titles and the credits that I got as a fighter, being on Team Canada and, you know, fighting in North American titles and world titles and stuff like that. So a friend of mine called me and she was like, hey, this director is looking for boxers. Do you want to give it a go? And I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? Didn't really know what I was getting into.
Yeah.
Because I've done, while I was fighting, like, in order to make money, I do like little temp jobs here and there. And every now and then I do like background work.
Yeah.
And so that's what I thought I was getting into. It's like, oh, I'm just going to be doing background work. But then I was actually working with the stunt coordinators now on this.
Oh.
And so now set life became glamorous.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if your background, you genuinely feel like you're just being herded cattle. But then now it's like, oh, cool. You're asking, I have an opinion. I'm allowed to, you know, say stuff and do stuff. And so I kind of fell in love with that aspect of it, being on set. And that was Rookie Blue as well. And I was like, okay, this is cool. Maybe this is something that I can do. So like I've worked with that stunt coordinator on a few other projects, and that was my I guess, into the industry, was through the world of stunts. Yeah.
So when you made that transition, you were settled, you were happy with your accomplishments, you made Team Canada, you were a champion, you were ready to make that adjustment for yourself.
In a way, yeah. Because like ultimately, because I wouldn't say I was happy. That's the thing. Because there's so many other thoughts that was in my mind about what am I going to do, and then not to mention, you know, how am I going to break this to my parents? Where it's just like,
that's true.
Because like my mom didn't even really start supporting the idea or concept of me fighting until like 5 years in. It took her a while to be like, okay, he's actually good at this and he's doing something with it. Okay. And then I ended up.
That's a Filipino mom for you right there.
Right. And then I spend 10 years in it, and all of a sudden she's like ready to back off. And then I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. And then, so now she's like, oh, okay, guess that means school now. You're going to finish school. And it's like, no, I want to get into acting.
How does she feel about that?
Oh my God. That's, yeah. That was an entire, I had to essentially redo, the whole getting her to approve of it again. And it took her like another 10 years.
So before you jumped into it, so acting, so you never envisioned yourself getting into it, I would assume.
No.
What were some of your acting inspirations when you jumped in? And being an Asian American, where we really didn't have, and we still don't have a lot of representation. And how was that? And who were some of your idols?
So, like, especially just for this, I'm gonna try and put a button on you there, because we're just gonna go with just Filipino or just Asian, but not Asian American, because I can't identify with that.
True, right? True. That's true.
So as much as I get it in a way, it's a slightly different thing, but at the same time, it's like I feel it's divisive to categorize yourself as a blank American.
That's true.
Right. And it's interesting because we don't really have that
colonization that, we up with this. We don't really have that conversation by the colonizers, man.
Yeah. It's crazy because there's one time where I was talking with a buddy, used to be a buddy, and we were talking about representation and stuff. And we're going through this entire bit of dialogue where he kept calling me Asian American. And after like the 10th time, I was like, dude, you've known me for the past few months. I'm Canadian. The fact that you keep going to Asian American shows that your mind's already in this political world where you're trying to be politically correct, right? Not throwing this on you because you're American.
Oh, no worries. No, I love it. But I think you and I are the same cat when I was like checking out some of your Twitter and just some of the things you put out there, man. Like, I think we're on the same level. Go ahead, bro. I'm sorry.
Sure. No, that's cool. But like, so where were we before I digressed?
Your inspirations, your acting inspirations.
So because I never even saw this as like a possibility, I didn't even, it's foreign to me to, look at the arts and stuff like that. So who I thought was cool growing up on screen was Jet Li, Jackie Chan. Those guys were, so that's where I saw, okay, cool. Stunts should be an easy way to get in. But me getting into it and starting off, my immediate influence was actually a buddy of mine, a classmate of mine who got into the industry, another Filipino guy, Alex Malari Jr. Look into him. He's got some exciting stuff on the way, but
dope.
I saw him do it, right? So it's so fascinating to be able to, oh yeah, Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, The Rock, these guys are cool. Well, it's like, I don't know them personally. I don't know how they grew up. I don't know. Sure, I've heard it. The Rock had $7 in his pocket. You know what I mean? He struggled. Yeah. It's like, cool. But I don't know him personally, right? As opposed to seeing a kid that I grew up with, that I had lunch with, seeing his struggles. And then it's like, he was the first person that I went to, and I was like, okay, hey, I'm getting into this. Help me. Right. And he's already doing his thing. He's getting roles on TV, and it's like, you got it going on. And he was the guy that put me in touch with his first acting coach. And everything was like a snowball from there, where he was my inspiration. So Alex Malari, another Filipino guy.
Shout out to Alex, man. Yo, mad love.
For sure. So, and I tell him that every day, where it's just like, dude, you're the reason why I'm where I'm at right now.
That's real, man. That's real shit. I love that.
Yeah.
So then you fell in love with it, I would assume. You know,
Oh, yeah.
So let's talk about falling in love with it. Some of the earlier stuff you got. I'm an actor myself. Before I actually jumped into producing shows and talking to other actors, this was my way of keeping busy, because, you know, until the right role comes along. And I was playing a lot of stereotypical roles. I was on America's Most Wanted, always playing the criminal. If I wasn't doing that, I was a cop. I was on The Wire. You know, you had to find other things to do, because or else it's still the same stuff. And maybe even talk on that, you know, being cast as stereotypical stuff, not being, you know, looked at as a hero or as just a normal character with just character. You know? Like,
I wouldn't even say I was a normal character, because, you know, back then my characters didn't have names.
Yeah.
I was the numbered character. I was also typecasted as the thug. But it's fascinating. What's your last name?
Strange. After my father. Yeah, my dad's white and my mom's Filipino.
Gotcha. So with me, I kind of fell into what I like to categorize as ethnically ambiguous.
Yeah.
My last name's de Guzman. Ooh, Spanish guy. All right, cool. Hey, where are you from? Oh, well, my parents are from the Philippines. Oh, so you're not really Spanish. All right, cool. And they'll go with the Spanish guy.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, this role's for an Asian guy. What kind of Asian are you? It's like, oh, Filipino. We want someone that looks more Chinese or Korean. And it's like, cool. So it was tough. So my typecast back in the day was for the thug roles, but unfortunately back then, especially in the racial climate of things, all the thug roles went to the black guys. And it was like, I was the non-black thug. It's like, okay, we can't have an all-black gang, so we're gonna toss him in it. And it's just like,
oh no, a diversity thug. That's terrible.
You know what I mean?
It's so real. The struggle was so real. When I had a bald head, they're like, oh, we can cast you as an ambiguously guy. You could probably rock with the black gang because you had a bald head. It was, I feel this in so many ways, bro. Been there, done that.
Because like, especially growing up where I did in Toronto, where it's like, I also grew up in what they classify as an urban community. And so I spoke with, you know, I spoke in slang. I was able to speak the vernacular that these guys were expecting in their American shows. And so it was a weird typecast, but at the same time, it's like, hell, I'm getting in the room, right? So it's how do I juggle this? Where do my emotions go towards it? And then eventually, after doing all these classes and stuff, and kind of understanding just the way that I spoke. So if I wanted to, I can go back to, you know, talking hood and going back and being one of those characters. But there was one role I remember where it was, okay, we want you to do an Asian accent. And I was like, I don't feel comfortable doing it. Yeah. And it's like, this character doesn't really need it. Are you sure? And so
I'm already Asian. Why do I have to give you an accent? Like, it's coming from me. Like, oh, I hated this.
Yeah. So like, that was a moment for me where it was just like, nah, I gave you my take. You know what I mean?
Word.
And yeah, they ultimately went with the person who put on an accent. It's like, all right.
Yeah. So do you have a favorite role that you've had thus far?
Ooh. There's little favorites in everything.
Okay.
Like my last role on the 100, like being able to speak a different language, and it really felt very theatrical in my performance, where I was allowed to go big with my choices and take my pauses, as opposed to being on a procedural where they just want you to get out the dialogue.
Yeah.
So that was like a highlight. My first big role on Take Two was a favorite just because of the level of the role. My role that's coming out for Operation Christmas Drop was a favorite because we actually filmed that in Guam. So it's
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, we actually, so it's like being there and having the locals, the Chamorros and all the other Asian Americans that were there looking at me and being inspired by me. And I was like, damn, this is a new feeling. This is interesting. Cause it's like, even during the rap party, because back in the day we could have rap parties because COVID.
And those are some jams, yo. I love it. It's a network even more. Set up stuff.
Yeah, where it's
on.
like I'm there and I have Cat Graham and Alexander Ludwig. Like these guys are superstars in my eyes. But then it's like you have part of like the crew and all the other guys are like asking me because they can identify with me, and I was like, but this is still technically an acting question. Why don't you ask Kat or Alex right there, right? But so that was another favorite aspect. Then there was also this one time where it was on a film called Rainbow Connections, and the premise of it revolved around autism. So we had the lead was an autistic child, and some of the scenes were set in a school for autistic kids, and getting to work with those kids. Oh my God. Like you as an actor can identify when people say being present and being in the moment and stuff, but it's like, I'm caught in these scenes where some of the children don't even understand what's happening. So then they're 100% present within the scene. And it's like, as an actor, I'm learning so much. So that was still one of my all-time favorites on set, being there. And it's like, I think that's also part of the reason I love this job, is because there's so much that you can learn. And whenever you're learning, you're having fun. And whenever you're having fun, it leads to a favorite moment, right? So it's like there's just so much.
Love it. I want to definitely continue and talk more about Operation Christmas Drop that you are starring in as John Michael. Gotta send some mad love about that, because we can't wait to do that support for that Netflix movie that's coming out. But I want to talk about so we talked about acting, but I was peeping the IMDb, and it looked like in 2019 you was also kind of taking that acting experience and getting behind the camera. I saw How to Get Away with Recess. You wrote some of it, you produced it. So it kind of mirrors my journey. I was an actor, then I wanted to get behind the camera to tell the stories that weren't coming to me because I kept getting the stereotypical stuff. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna create and do my own, and then go from there. And then that kind of bridged into other things. So how was that? Like you said, you kept on falling into things from fighting to acting, and then getting behind the camera. Let's talk about that.
I originally started behind the camera. Even back while I was fighting, I used to have my own like media company. So we made commercials and stuff for other people, and we did interviews and things like that. And I started that with this festival called Carnival. So I think and they just started recently over the past few years having an LA Carnival, but it's based out of Trinidad and Tobago, and they do this incredible festival tour worldwide, where in North America, the biggest carnival, they call it Caravana, is in Toronto. It's like 3 times as big as Mardi Gras in New Orleans. And from there, it also goes to New York for Labor Day, Memorial Day in Broward County, and it was an opportunity for me to like meet these celebrities at the time, and I facilitate these interviews, and it was fun because I got paid to party, right? So yeah, it was such a great lifestyle, and it gave me experience behind the camera and understanding, you know, how to set up shots and things like that. And then it kind of brought me to the forefront where it's like, well, I have the personality to host and be in front of the camera. So then that's how I kind of got comfortable with being in front of the camera. And even it translates to doing these interviews where sometimes even my manager was like, you're pretty good at these interviews. And I was like, yeah, used to do these. So it worked.
You know the deal.
But, I know the deal. So I started behind the camera, and then eventually I just got too busy because of acting. So I took that by stride, and then all of a sudden now I'm starting to get more time on my hands and also more money to be able to do these things.
Dope.
So that's the kind of drive to get back into that saddle, to get behind the camera.
So are there any projects you have in mind that you want to tell, or stories that you want to tell that you can maybe give us a light into real quick without giving away too much? I know you probably don't want to give away all the details.
Yeah. It's one project that is kind of like so an ode to my past, where I want to reboot the Love Boat.
Ooh.
Yeah, because I used to work on a cruise ship. I don't know if you knew that part about it.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. That's kind of dope.
So yeah, essentially taking my stories, I've already written the episodes, and it's like, this is something that I'm just sitting on. So until it gets done, until I have the team to get it done right.
Gotcha.
I'm not afraid about sharing this, just because I know for a fact nobody has my story, let alone has my story that's written on paper already.
Okay.
So if there's any producers out there, anything that's interested in rebooting the Love Boat, I got your story.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I have to tell you, as a writer director myself, one of my dream projects, and actually I'm curious on another end after I say this, but one of the dream projects I want to do is the story of the Bottle of Mactan and Lapu Lapu. And so when I saw your picture, my brother, I don't know how familiar you are with the story, but I was like, okay, dream project. I think I just found my Lapu Lapu, bro. I think that's you, dog. So if any producers that are out there that are listening and watching, you know, your boy has been all about it. You know, I was on a recent podcast talking about it, and I kind of gave my whole version on it in a very animated way. But bro, you my Lapu Lapu, dog. Are you familiar with Lapu Lapu and the story of my son?
Yeah, fuck Ferdinand, man.
Yeah, that colonizer.
I am down with that.
So with that being said, I'm sorry, Kat. Are there Philippine stories that you've learned? Because I go into back to the Filipino American. You know, growing up in America, I'm taught American history. I didn't really get taught the tales and the stories of the Philippines, and so I had to really dive and research it for myself. Yep. And for you, growing up in Canada, I'm sure you learned more about Canadian history. And what stories are you aware of, and are there any that you want to tell?
So I had a moment where traveling the world and going through the Pacific, where I started to notice these trends of the people on the different islands. And it started with just their art. So I have a tattoo on my side. I got it in Tahiti, French Polynesia. I have a tattoo on my foot, got it from New Zealand, from the Maldi people. And then I have this one here. This is Visayan. And where it's like, there's a connection there. There's some kind of connection. And then it just brought me back to, this is funny, but it brought me back to Lechon. Where it's like, how do Filipinos and Hawaiians have the same type of dish and it's prepared the exact same way, and it's like
delicious.
oh my goodness, like it's like the sweetest pork you'll ever have, you know what I mean? And it's fascinating because it just shows how we're all connected.
Yes.
And then it wasn't until Moana that I was like, damn, that's our story too. So understanding all of that, so there's so many Filipino stories that I definitely love to bring light to and to shed on, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, it's a dying history. So I'd even want to go further back to when it was just the first indigenous tribes, and then they were met by, the Middle Easterns. I'd want to explore that, where it's like how the islands were used as a trading post. Essentially, it was a popular location on the map, and that's why every culture, every military power, used the Philippines, is because of its location. And it's just fascinating to know that there's so much more history. Like for example, how our language even became our language, where we say salamat, and how it ties into the Muslims and how they say salam alaikum. And it's like, knowing that there's a connection in there, I want to dig into stories that kind of bring that history to the forefront.
Yes, give us money, let us make it happen. It's so rich. It's a playground of stories.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, Kat, you had a question earlier.
Oh, I just wanted to talk about his hair. I thought I could take a back seat while we're being actually cultural. It's just, you call it lapu and the hair, and it was glorious. We did the flip, and Tina and I, or Viva and I, just really wanted to know about your hair care routine.
My hair care routine. I wish it was a lot more luxurious than it looks. All I know is I shampoo it once a week and condition it twice a week. I use like argan oil for that as well. Rub in some shea butter every now and then. But yeah, I'm still like, I was having this conversation the other day where they're talking about hair and why it's more common for men to go bald. And I'm pretty sure it's because more men wear hats. So it's like,
yeah.
For me, like I have a headband because I don't like having my hair down like this. I'll wear it down for like interviews and for the show and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to figure out ways to not go bald.
That's a great goal. So do you have your long, luxurious locks in Operation Christmas Drop?
I do. I have it down. Yeah.
Because you never see, I love those kinds of like Christmassy romance, like, they're just, it's like if Hot Cocoa was a show, I could have endless cups, endless movies. So I'm really, really hyped to see this. Yeah. But you tend to see, I mean, there's bingo cards for these kinds of things where it's like, the collage of the title, steel-jawed brunette guy with gray eyes and a sweater. Like it's always the same guy who's the lead in all of these. So it's just so exciting to see, like, what was your term? Ethnically ambiguous. Yeah.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but I'm not. You still have your white dude as your lead. I know. I'm just a fun supporting character in it, so I can't take that away. But there's a shift. There's a shift that's happening. I can't remember what it's called, but I think it's going to be out next Christmas. If not, they might even manage to pull it out for this Christmas. But there's actually an MOW, holiday MOW that's coming out. Oh, what's it called? But it's two Asian leads.
Really? Yes.
Yeah. So and that's your love interest. It's two Asian people. So there's a change. There's a shift that's coming.
All right.
Yeah, but the thing I love about Operation Christmas Drop is it's an island Christmas. So I can't really seem to recall a proper island Christmas movie.
No, they're always set in like Maine. That's really exciting.
Vermont.
Vermont, yes.
Maine, we need snow. This is, that's the key to a Christmas movie, is it has to have. So it's like there's going to be bits of it where you are in Washington and you're going to see snow, sure, but you're going to see Christmas lights on an island. So that's super. Oh man, it's like, and the best part about it is it's based on real events.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So, the Air Force, ever since, I want to say the 50s, might be the 60s, but they do an Operation Christmas Drop, a real Operation Christmas Drop, where it's a supply drop run through the holiday season to get extra supplies to these islands that would otherwise not have anything because it's just that remote. And it's the military personnel itself putting the funds together, where they're not taking stuff from the government, right? So it's like, that's what essentially this is highlighting, is like, it's people think that, or the government thinks that they're doing these military practice runs using up all the fuel, but it's like, no, this is all routine. This isn't anything new. And then now they're just adding the fact that they're pooling money together to get supplies to these places that need it. So that's another thing that I'm excited to have with this film, is like, it's bringing to light a real thing. So hopefully it encourages people to, send supplies on their own, put together their own boxes, their own buckets, their big buckets, or what do they call them? Barrels, the balikbayan.
I was getting ready to say that. We've been doing that in my family for years, sending stuff to the family back home.
Yeah. So, and that's this movie essentially, is like just bringing light to that, where it's a good gesture that this, that the Air Force is doing, which is a weird thing to say at this time, but
Really wholesome Christmas movie.
So can we talk a little bit about your character? So what is your role in the film? And like you said, it was one of your highlights as well, playing this character. Can you give us a little bit more
my character,
about John Michael?
John Michael he used to be part of the Air Force. He's still part of it, but he took some leave to help take care of his family.
Okay.
And so he helps bring light to this entire operation of how valuable it is to all these other remote islands.
Love it. So you know what? That's a perfect segue about giving and giving back to some of the charities you have. Can we talk on that?
So the charity that I started with some friends, it's called Play On Foundation, and it focuses on neurological research and brain aneurysm prevention. So I had a friend of mine, Nathan Noel, passed away 7 years ago, and to a brain aneurysm. And it was one of those things where it was so sudden, and I'm still unsettled with the reasoning behind it from the doctor, where the doctor's like, oh, it can happen to anybody. So I figured I'd try to see if I can create this foundation to, shine light specifically on brain aneurysm prevention, which there's no foundation that's out there right now that's like that. Even with Emilia Clarke's foundation, where hers focuses on brain aneurysm rehabilitation. So it's once you've already got it, then her charity is perfect to take a look at. But the reality of the situation is we are all susceptible to aneurysms. And it's just being able to identify or figure a way to identify how we can prevent them. Whether it's because there's and it takes, the thing is it takes money. That's all it takes. Is because you look at cancer, you even look at AIDS, you look at any other autoimmune deficiency, it's taken time to get to a point where they've found ways to treat it or deal with it or even prevent it now. Right. And it just boils down to allocated funds. And brain aneurysms, when it comes to neurology, is one of the least funded aspects of the science. And aneurysms within the youth especially is just going up as the years are going on. So it's finding a way to hopefully, help stop that.
I think that's beautiful, and that's very commendable. Why don't we go ahead and state the website or a way they can support your foundation? And I'll comments below and throw it on the screen as well.
Yeah, cool. www. What is it? I can't remember. www.letsplayon.org, and on Instagram @playon2013. And yeah, it's interesting too to use that word support, because as simple as if you don't have the funds to donate or whatever, share it, like pictures, you know what I mean? That's all people need to understand when it comes to support, is it's that simple.
It's like letting people know that there are people fighting for this.
Yeah. And it's an illness that surprisingly has affected so many more people than you can think of.
Yeah.
If you haven't been affected by it personally, I'm sure within 2 degrees of people that you'll find somebody.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just unfortunate where it's like, I relate it to heart attacks, where it took or strokes. It took a while to be able to identify. And now you have these PSAs that come out. Oh, if you think somebody's having a stroke, ask if they smell burnt toast, or ask if that, right? So it's like, even those simple steps that are now nationally wide known knowledge, those are small things that can contribute to any cases preventing people from having aneurysms. Because once you have an aneurysm rupture in your brain, it's like 90 to 95% mortality rate.
Yeah.
Because it's almost instantaneous. Right. So one of those things.
All right. Well,
I love your mug, by the way.
Yeah, that made me
every time it comes up, I'm like, oh.
Maybe.
So you're a Star Wars over Star Trek, right?
Oh.
So we're doing the nerd check now. Okay, now we're gonna throw to some fun questions.
So it's like I can't pick one over the other, because I'd love to work on both.
That's fair. That's so fair.
And so I'm, especially with like, I've created a little compilation of my scenes in the 100 where I'm talking another language, and I told my manager, I was like, you send this for every Star Trek casting.
Yeah.
I'll learn that Klingon shit.
Yeah.
Because that was the most interesting thing for this project on the 100, was like learning a fake language.
Yeah, that's cool.
Right. And it's like, that was the first question that I got from people, where it's like, did you just make that up? And it's like, no, that was scripted. The syllables and the sounds that I'm making, that's scripted.
So what are you nerd over? Like, what would be something that nobody can test you with your knowledge? What are some of the nerdy things you're into?
The most recent big thing that I can nerd on about, just because especially I just saw Queen's Gambit on Netflix, chess.
No way.
She is a huge chess.
Really?
Wait, that's your nerd flex? Okay, so I was president of my chess club in college. We were state champions 2 out of the 3 years. 2 out of the 3 years that that I was there in school. I did cosplay chess at MagFest.
Amazing.
She was champion.
I was champion. And yeah, I play like
So basically, she wants to
games.
play you in chess.
So yeah,
yeah.
so
Well,
I've been challenged all that.
chess.com. Go to chess.com, and then my user is there's no at. It's just xdeguz, just like my Instagram. But we're playing. And then if you have a chance, go on my like Instagram videos. I think it was in April when I was going crazy in quarantine. I did a little short video of me playing chess with myself.
Dude, oh my god. Yeah, I'm like, that's right.
We need this to happen. I want this to happen. We got to throw this up too. We definitely got to see that.
This. Oh my god. But and then it's funny because it's like, so when I moved to Vancouver, I went to this one shop and it had this Arabian onyx chess set, stone chess set, and I was like, oh, this is great for when people come over and I can play them. And then I bought it, but then nobody here, the friends I made here, nobody plays chess, and I'm just like, well, that was money wasted.
Beautiful.
So
I have like 5 different chess sets. Like I have a Zelda one and like a Star Wars one. I have a Mario one. Like all the different ones. But like that's my goal, is to have like a big grown-up library and then a chess table set up. And
sweet. I have so I filmed this last year or 2 years ago. But I filmed this project, and I've just gotten so busy with filming and writing and working on other projects that I kind of just put on the back burner. And ever since I finished Queen's Gambit the other day, all I'm focusing on now is like putting that up, because it's like I hate watching stupid chess scenes. I think that's my biggest pet peeve, next to people drinking from empty cups.
Oh yeah. I hate it when people aren't looking when they're driving. Like,
well, with these Tesla cars now, you know what I mean? So they could, but like when I see people make chess moves and it's like, why is the board set up like that? Yeah. It's not even your move. What do you mean? That's not tech. And I was doing this too, like last night. Well, not last night. When I was watching the first few episodes of Queen's Gambit, just to make sure it was legit, I'd pause it every now and then, and I'd analyze the board and just be like, yeah, okay, cool, that makes sense.
Got the
because it's just it's such a beautiful game, and it's so like I can talk about chess forever.
Xavi, I love it. So how have you been holding it down, COVID? Are you what's the future? So like right now, holding it down in COVID and then coming up out of this, what are you looking forward to when we're a little bit more open and we have a vaccine and we could do things?
I haven't even thought that far ahead, bro. Like it's really just trying to take it day by day. And I guess this is an opportunity for me to express how important mental health is. Because when COVID started, I was at this peak level of creativity where I just had to get shit done. I started writing a book. It's not finished yet because I just hit this wall, but yeah, where I started at this high, but because I didn't have any other distractions going on, because the world was essentially closed, I burned myself out mentally. And I went into this little bout of depression where I just couldn't get out of bed. Like there's no other reason, where nothing's happening, but I couldn't even will myself to cook some eggs for breakfast. It was just, I'm miserable. And the reality was, I was just overexerting my mind too much thinking going on.
Yeah. And
I wasn't focusing on just being happy and just enjoying, as weird as it sounds, enjoying this downtime in the world. So when it comes to expecting when COVID's going to be done, I'm like, well, if it's not done, then I'm not even going to bother giving myself that hope. I'm just going to worry about what I got to do today. Yeah. Today I had to go get COVID tested so I can go work on set. I I fell into the trap of baking sourdough now. So I bake sourdough bread. And I had this interview to look forward to. And I was like, all right, those are the 3 main things for today. That's all I'm going to focus on. Today I have, tomorrow I'm going to have another set of interviews, and I have a meeting. That, you know what I mean? So it's just like taking it day by day, making sure that I enjoy the day for what it is. And I take care of these guys. These guys are keeping me
ask about your plants.
keeping me sane over here, because it's also, yeah, my plants have definitely taught me a lot of valuable lessons when it comes to self-care and even just maintaining some sort of routine.
I love it. I love it. That's exactly kind of like how this was birthed. This would have probably been like interview number 453. But this is really like number 13 this year. Cause yeah, like you, I was mad depressed, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to pursue the dream project I've always wanted to do, and show love to my people and check in with Kat and Tina. Cause we would always be doing conventions. That's how we met in shows. But we couldn't do it this year because, we can't get together with our friends and family like that anymore. So I really want to thank you for joining us and, being a part of this, because this has been therapeutic for us, and to just talk and, continue to live and inspire.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, man. So really, this has been a great journey. We would love to have you back. We got to have the chess match between you and Tina. Let's make sure everybody tune into Netflix to see Operation Christmas Drop. See my man, who I want to call now Kuya X, because he's gonna be part of the family. Brother Xavier.
When's your birthday though?
November 9th. I'm a Scorpio cat, coming up soon.
Cool. Okay,
actually,
then
very soon. Yeah.
Then I could be Kuya. That's cool.
Why don't we throw the socials, anything you want to promote before we flex out, how they can stay tuned with you. And again, check out the Play On Foundation. I'm going to put all of the information in the description below.
Amazing.
How they can get with you, my man.
Yeah. On all the socials at X de Guz. Definitely check out the Play On Foundation, www.letsplayon.org. Follow that at PlayOn 2013. What else do I want to promote? I don't know. We got Operation Christmas Drop coming out. We got the 100 that's out right now. Got another project that's going to come out on Netflix. Stay tuned for that.
So we got to have you back to talk about that too. We want you back, man. You're part of the fam.
Yeah, for sure. And chess.com, my user X de Guz. Play some games, man.
Let's make it happen. Tina, Kat, did you have any other questions before we leave?
No, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I'm gonna condition twice a week now. So
yeah, that's one thing that I don't do. Like, I don't condition it. Like, how do you wear your hair up to bed? Because that's what I struggle with the most. I mean, I got a lot of hair, but
I tie it up, have it in a bun up here so that I can sleep on my pillow back here.
Glorious, man. And my wife really wanted, so I'm happy that got out there the product you use, because when I was showing my wife, yo, this is who we interviewing tomorrow, she was like, okay. And I was like, yeah, I know, I think he's gorgeous too. Okay. Yeah, man. So we're gonna talk about you now, because you're a beautiful man, and I need you to play my Lapu Lapu when I get that Battle of Mactan film out there.
Man, I even have the tab saved on my phone for a story that I want to create in regards to that whole Magellan takeover, where it's like, no, we gotta make sure it's right. That's the fact.
All right, my man. Appreciate you so much. Thank you for coming on. Mad love to you, bro.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for having me. See you guys.
All right, man.
All right. Ooh, so how was that?
That was really cool.
I need a cigarette, y'all. Can I get a cigarette? Yo, Kuya X, Xavier de Guzman, bro. Thank you for coming on. That was a man. Great, brother. Great. And I'm telling you, when I saw this man's picture, I thought instantly, as y'all talked, as we talked in previous discussions, I want to do a Lapu Lapu film that shows our culture. That man would be perfect. What do you think? Y'all know about the story of Battle of Mactan, right?
Yeah. And he seemed really interested in it. Like, he's got that same connection to wanting to shed light on those stories and bring those stories to life. So
I think it's really cool getting to hear from someone who shares like a lot of our cultural markers, but who doesn't have the American kind of experience.
Yeah.
And it makes things like really interesting, because you wouldn't think there was that much of a difference coming from like North America in general versus the US. And yeah,
it's a different experience. It's kind of a different way that he views his Filipino-ness.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. My favorite thing that he spoke on at the end was that kind of that quarantine depression you fall into, but not like, everyone's feeling this existential dread, but like he spoke on he overworked himself. And I feel like that's something that people don't talk about a lot in this quarantine, is that like, okay, so you have all this free time and you're home. Why aren't you working on projects? And that pressure, and then that pressure to, okay, well, I have the time, so I'm going to work on everything, and then getting burnt out on it. It's kind of like another side to that quarantine depression. And it was kind of, that spoke to me.
Yeah, especially from somebody so accomplished. I mean, a lot of people might say, oh, it's just me because I'm, I just don't have it together. But it's really kind of a symptom of everything that's going on in the world right now.
Definitely. But we got to have this happen, as we discussed during the interview.
Oh, yeah.
Tina, you got to give them the business side at that chess game. I know you can do it, girl. You're our champion. You're our champion. And I love Kat. Yo,
yes.
Kat was a hype man for real. Kat was like, yo.
That's my friend. She plays chess.
Like, what? Like, your nerd thing is chess? Oh no.
I love it.
Well, see, I'm like a shit talker. Chess player.
And you got to do that, girl.
I'm not like a golf clap type. Good move.
You're the bad guy in the middle school chess movie.
Yes,
that's you.
Yes,
That
is my character. Like, I came from the street playing chess, and like I have to win this for street cred, and I wanna put him down, and I'm the bully. I'm the chess bully.
Chess bully. We learned a lot about each other on the show.
There we go. Kuya X, our girl Tina's coming for your head. You still fam, but she gonna set you straight real quick. You know what I'm saying? You might have threw a few punches, a few knees, but our girl's our girl with chess, yo. We gonna get it. All right. Well, that has been a great episode. This has been a great episode. Great interview. Before we sign off, ladies, let's tell them how they could track us, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of that. Hit them up. And then, why don't you throw that chess game out too? Anybody else that want to step to Tina, come find her. She ready for you, son.
That's right. Well, I'll go first. Cataphoric. You can check me on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok.
So find me on Instagram, viva.valentina, TikTok, viva.valentina, Twitter, it's Viva Valentina XO, and on chess.com, Viva Valentina XO. Challenge me. I love chess. So, you want to talk some shit too? I'm all about it. So let's go.
I can't wait. We got to have these chess videos and my girl going to town representing for the ShoPowSho. I love it. I am Kuya P, aka Strange Since 1977, and at Temple Far East. That's your Twitter and Instagram. You can always find me here at the ShoPowSho with the squad, and also we are part of the Nerds of Color. So at the Nerds of Color, check us out there. And for your wide pop culture sphere, I'm at the NRW and at New Release Wednesday. This has been our episode with the amazing Xavier de Guzman, Xavier de Guzman, aka Kuya X. He's part of the squad, and the amazing Ates. We love y'all, and as we say, Mahakita. We out here. Boom, boom.
Well, it's the NOC in full color. You see me? The hard knock life, comics, movies, and TV.
Yo, we are back. ShoPowSho.
You got it.
Yo.